All right, we're back in Ireland at the moment. We're here for about 6 weeks, give or take a day or two. And this is an area really where I've done some of my heaviest drinking over the years. You know, it's not because I'm Irish. It's not because there's a heavy drinking culture here. It's not because my friends were drinkers. All of those things have been influences over the years. The fact is that I did most of my heavy drinking here because I chose to drink. It's an important fact to understand about yourself. I chose to do some of the heaviest drinking of my life right here, right? To drink pint after pint, mouthful after mouthful. And I was drinking myself into a living death. Now, I could have chosen something else to do with that time, but I didn't. And blaming Ireland for its heavy drinking culture, I think, is a completely missing the point, right? There is a part of the population here in this country that drinks heavily, and heavy drinking has become a part of the culture for those people. And it's not just here in Ireland. Most of my clients are from the States. I have people from all over the world, from the UK, from New Zealand, from all over Europe. And they're the same. I didn't see drunkenness so much when I went to Spain first, for example, but I'm starting to see it now. And they consume a lot of alcohol, but just in a different way. And the point is, whether those people admit it or not, each and every one of them who is being affected by the alcohol that they're drinking, the amount of alcohol that they're drinking, every one of them has to choose to take part in that culture, right? Whether that choice is conscious, whether it's a conscious choice or an unconscious choice, it's the same end result. It doesn't matter if you live in Tipperary or Timbuktu, right? The choice is always yours. It's your choice. You make the choice. You make the choice to put the alcohol into your mouth, or you make the choice not to do it, right? There are plenty of opportunities to do different things. You just have to look around. For instance, you know, I think it's part of the problem. I got so sucked into that part of the culture, that drinking part of the culture, that I couldn't see outside of it. You know, Ireland is also known, if you don't know this, as the land of saints and scholars. Right now, it's too late for me to get into that saintly category, I think, but I could have become a scholar. And there's plenty of ways of becoming a scholar without being stuck in a library with musty old books all day long, right? What if I spent my time, all that time that I spent on drinking, what if I took that time and I took the energy that I spent on drinking it, and instead of wasting all that time and energy on drinking, all that time and energy on the pub culture that I'd invested myself into, and I invested that into even half that amount of time into learning or educating myself. You know, do this same thought experiment for yourself. You know, imagine if you could take all the time and energy that you've spent on alcohol over the years, do the calculations, roughly estimate how many hours you've wasted on alcohol. Then think about the energy that went into the before, the during, the after you're drinking, and think instead what would have happened if you'd invested that time or a part of that time into learning something, invested it into educating yourself instead. Again, it's a moot point because we can't do that. You can't turn back the clock, right? You know, that for me right there, that's karma in a nutshell, plain and simple. Where you are right now is a direct result of all the choices and the decisions that you've made in the past. Cause and effect. You know, I chose to spend a huge chunk of my past time and energy on alcohol drinking. And you only get out of your life what you put into it. Poison in, poison out. Right? My point is, as I'm driving around here, seeing all the old places, driving by the old pubs I used to go to, driving through the villages I used to live in, the houses I used to live in, those places where my son grew up, you know, that old thought keeps cropping up in my mind. Where would I be now if I hadn't stopped drinking alcohol? That's the point. You know, I know it wouldn't be here, as in Ireland. I know, I'm not sure if I'd be here now on this planet if I hadn't stopped drinking. You know, the way things were looking back then, I'm sure I'd be either really ill or I'd be pushing up daisies now. So I can go down the opposite road. Where would I be now if I had stopped drinking years before when my son was born? Or where would I be today if I had never started drinking alcohol in the first place? That's a useful thing sometimes to think about, but I think sometimes mostly can be bad for the soul, honestly, right? It's bad enough that you were drinking yourself to a living death in the past, that you put your body and your mind and your relationships and your health and your wealth and you ran them through this haggard way of thinking and through this senseless, stupid way of behaving, right? And now you're trying to make changes, but you're dragging your past into the present and using it as a stick to beat yourself up with, as if the past hasn't done enough damage already. That to me makes no sense at all, that kind of stuff, right? I think that kind of thinking doesn't do anybody any good. Like I said, you can't do anything about the past except how you think about it right now in the present. You can't change the past except through the lessons that you take from the past, from your own past. And you're not going to learn anything from anything while you're at the same time using it as a stick to beat yourself up with. So you've got to take a step backwards and look at it from a different angle. If you want a well-lived life, a life that you can really enjoy, a life that you want or you don't need to escape from, you need to start filling yourself up with hope and confidence and self-belief and what you can do, and not be consistently and constantly beating yourself up with the things that are done and in the past and cannot be changed, right? The only thing that you can change about the past is how you examine it, how you see it, what eyes you see it through. The only thing you can change about your past is the lens through which you look at it, and then what you do with what you see, right? If you examine your past but you do nothing to change how you're acting, you're destined to repeat those mistakes over and over again. And this, for me, is that living death state that you get yourself into, that I was getting myself into. I should have done anything. I can only examine what I did and examine the consequences of my actions and make damn sure that I don't repeat those mistakes over and over again. Look, I got into alcohol when I was young, right? I was impressionable. I was brainwashed into believing that that's just what you did. That's what the adults did. That's what I had to do if I wanted to be an adult, if I wanted to be grown up, right? If I wanted to be a man. I kept drinking because I was brainwashed into believing all kinds of nonsense about myself. The drink, all kinds of nonsense about my friends and the drink and the culture and the drink, and it all led me to drinking myself into a living death. I did stop drinking in the end, and I've lived the last decade of my life without alcohol. It's been a long way in my rearview mirror, and I've had a great life since because of that. I love life. I've always loved life, even when I was drinking. That brainwashed thinking for me, the brainwashed behavior when I was young, and the fact that I didn't question it, that thinking took a huge chunk out of my life, 30 years of my life. But it is what it is. I can't change that. You've heard the thought experiment that somebody will say to you, what happens if you could go back in time and you could kill Adolf Hitler and prevent all the misery that he caused? Would you do it, right? Well, I think that same thing about my own drinking life. What if I could go back and punch myself in the mouth just as I was about to take that first sip of alcohol? And I wouldn't, because first of all, I can't do that, so there's no point in doing it. It is what it is, right? Second, even if I could, you can't just change one thing, right? There's a knock-on effect in life. My life has turned out the way it has because of all the things that have happened previous to me. One thing leads to another. And I like the way my life has turned out sitting here right now. Some crappy things have happened in my life, that's for sure. But some great things have happened because of all those crappy things that have happened. What would happen to all those things about my life that I love, like meeting my son, if I'd never drank alcohol? I would never meet his mum, and then he's not here, right? So there's a lot of stuff that I think about in life that are just the way they are. some things you do are going to make the days that are coming in your life, your future, they're going to make those days easier, more fun, more fulfilling. And these are the things that add value to your life. You know, whether it's in better ways of thinking, better ways of doing things, or just that your life is better because you've changed the way that you see yourself and you changed the way that you see your life. Other things that you are going to do, the changes that you're going to make in the coming days, your future, these things are going to make the coming days more difficult, less fun, less fulfilling, shorter in general. They take value away from your life, right? Your life becomes less valuable to you because you're doing these things in your life. And alcohol drinking is one of the biggest things that will retard your life in that way, right? Alcohol retards you as a person. It takes away from your ability to be useful to yourself, to others, to bring yourself joy or to bring joy to other people. When I was drinking, there was never any real progress because there couldn't be. How can I make progress like that? How can you make progress when you're doing something so fundamentally against your survival, against yourself? If you'd never heard of alcohol and someone suggested that you drink this and they told you exactly what it was and what it would do to you, would you drink it? Fuck no, right? You'd think that person who offered you it needed their head examined, and you think anyone who took a sip of this stuff or drank it for any length of time, the same thing. Associating alcohol with fun in life is the death of life. It's the death of life, right? It's slavery. And it's you that does this. You make the choice. Every drop of alcohol that passes your lips is you taking the decision to put it there. As soon as you start saying it was something that you don't control, you're taking on a victim mentality and you're giving away the power, your power to change that situation. By blaming external factors, by blaming external circumstances, you're essentially surrendering your responsibility to taking ownership of your life and making positive changes. You know, there are certain things that are going to be beyond your control, right? That's the truth. But you always get to choose how you respond. You always get to choose how you respond to these things. So it's not that you might not accept responsibility for your drinking. You might say to yourself, it was my genes that made me do this, or I can't help it, I'm an alcoholic, or it's a disease. And all of those things might be true, right? There might be such a thing as an alcoholic gene. There might be a disease called alcoholism. They're not true from my point of view. I don't believe those things. I don't accept any of that stuff for my life. And you know why? Because it takes away from myself. It takes away from my life. It takes away from my ability to say yes or no. It takes away from my ability to decide what's good for me and what's not good for me, right? It means that I'm just a puppet at the end of this liquid bottle. And once you accept that in one area of your life, it makes it 10 times easier to start accepting that powerlessness in other areas of your life. And before you know it, you're a shadow of what you could have been, right? You are the only one who is in complete control of what you put into your mouth, right? You don't have to put it there, and don't let anyone tell you any different. There is nothing or nobody forcing you to put it in there. Now, if you believe that you're at the mercy of your genes or some vague disease, I cannot help you in the slightest, right? Just as I can't help somebody who doesn't want to change. I can't help somebody who doesn't think or believe that they can change. I can't help somebody who believes that there are all these invisible barriers to stopping them from making these changes happen. It's too much for me to overcome, right? It's not possible for me to help those people because we're going to be clashing on such a fundamental level, right? How can you make progress when you're being blocked by walls that even you can't see? So it's only by stopping the flow of this poison that you can even start to make those changes happen. It's only by stopping the flow of this poison that you can even start to change, right? Stopping the flow of alcohol forces you into a change process, into the only change process that you need. Stopping the flow of alcohol is not the change. It's not the change process, it's only the catalyst for the changes that are going to come. Then comes the work, and some of the work is going to be tough. I'm not going to deny that. The work is tough, but it's simple. It's tough on the emotions because every fiber in your body is trying to drag you back to that old way of living, right? The easy way of living. That's the power of habit. Slipping back into your old routines, your old ways of thinking, your old ways of doing things. That's a lot easier than building new habits. It's a lot easier than it's a lot easier to go back to your old programming than to build new routines, new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things. But that's what you have to do. There's no other way around this. Stop the flow and do the work to change everything. It's the very same power of habit that is trying to pull you back to that living death that you've come from, that's also trying to help you build the best life that you can live. Believe me, I'm living proof of this. I'm living proof that this can be done. And you don't have to spend the rest of your life believing there is something fundamentally wrong with you, right? We've got a free course available at the moment. It's our beginner's guide to getting sober and staying sober. And I think it's one of the best courses that I've done, a small course, right? This is all about changing the way that you think about alcohol, stopping drinking alcohol, changing the way you think about sobriety, and in the long run, changing some of the ways that you think about yourself. So you can make better choices, you can build better habits, and ultimately you can start living the life that you don't want to escape from. That's what it's all about. It's free at the moment, no strings attached. Click on the link down below and they'll send it out to you. So that's it for today. Bit of a rant, but there you go. Onwards and upwards. Take care of yourself. Bye now.